Welcome to the What's Your Ethos podcast, where we interview the leaders from insurance carriers, distributors, and insurtechs, tackling some of the thorniest issues in the industry. Hi, I'm Peter Colis, the CEO of Ethos. Today we have with us Dave Sweitzer, the President and Chief Experience Officer of TruStage. TruStage is an insurance, investment, and technology provider built on the philosophy of people helping people. They are the insurance partner of choice to 94% of U.S. credit unions. Now, Dave's team delivers insurance, lending, investment management, and retirement solutions to nearly 30 million consumers nationwide through credit unions and other financial institutions. Dave is a TruStage lifer, having joined the company out of college 33 years ago in a sales role. Now, Ethos and TruStage have been partners for several years. We offer multiple products together, all with a focus on protecting the middle market and the mass market. So I'm so glad we could do this, Dave. Thank you for joining us.
Excellent. Glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
So Dave, can you start by just giving us a quick overview of your role at TruStage? What do you focus on? What's within your purview? How do you spend your days?
So technically my title is now president at TruStage, and I have really accountability on my teams do for most of our core businesses. So our business leaders, and they're the ones that are developing the strategy and managing the P&L for our core business areas as well. So I currently have our sales and marketing, so all the go-to-market, all the way through the value chain and in service and claims as well. And kind of what you talked about before, we got really three main businesses. Kind of the life business that we partner with you on. We have a whole kind of a smorgasbord of lending related insurance products and services, as well as wealth management and retirement. And my teams are accountable for those.
How large is your team? Just to give us a sense of scale.
I think it's somewhere around 2,600 employees right now.
And mostly all based in Wisconsin or nationally distributed?
Nationally distributed, yeah. It's interesting, the impacts of COVID were much more of a national footprint. We had, certain centers like Madison, Wisconsin, and we had Waverly, Iowa, and Fort Worth, Texas, and all that kind of stuff pre-COVID. And we had our sales organization, which was around the country. But since COVID, we've gone to kind of worker preference as far as where they want to be. So two things have happened. One is we're hiring on a much more of a national footprint. And two is during COVID, people moved and they go, okay, I don't have to be in Madison anymore. I'm moving to Austin, Texas, or wherever they went to. And they're not coming back. So we definitely have a national footprint there for our employees.
I dig Madison personally.
Yeah. I was born and raised here. I left. I vowed never to come back, and I'm back. So I like it too.
So I've heard that you have a little bit of a checkered past. Can you tell us, how did you land in the insurance industry? What motivated you to get into the business of protecting families?
Yeah, it's kind of a circuitous path. I'm probably similar to you. I don't know. When the grade school teacher asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't think I said insurance and financial services. And so to give you a brief story, I went to the University of Wisconsin, which I always say is the finest institution in the free world. Some people debate me on that, but I'm going to argue for that one. And I was just getting ready to graduate with my business degree. And one day my parents were very proud of me. And then I had this conversation where I said, I don't think I'm going to get a real job. I think I'm going to get a job driving taxis so I can continue to play in my rock and roll band. And, it took them for a little bit of a shock. They actually handled it pretty well. And then my dad kind of going, well, do what you need to do when you grow up, come back and talk to me. So I made a go of it in the musical career and did that for a while, and then realized that I think two things. One is that lifestyle is kind of tough. And two is, hey, we probably just weren't good enough to make a go of it. And so ended up going back, getting my MBA, and then eventually got hooked up with TruStage out in Seattle, Washington. I wasn't living in Madison anymore, but obviously I was familiar with TruStage, which was called CUNA Mutual at the time. So I put in an application there and loved the opportunity to start my career out in Seattle. So that's how I ended up getting into it.
You're a rock star of a different breed, Dave.
Yeah, definitely not the star, but a rock and roller. He used to have the mullet, all that different stuff back in the day.
So how did your initial sales roles prepare you for the leadership role that you're in today?
Yeah, it's interesting. Because I remember when I was getting my MBA, I think there's very, very few MBA students that go, I aspire again to a career in sales. I don't think any MBA students are thinking about that. And I ended up just jumping into this opportunity, like I said, out in Seattle, that was really good for me. And really, I think it gave me an opportunity on two things. One is I saw the whole organization. So I was kind of the single point of contact, so I could interact with all the different parts of our business, which I think was really helpful to me. And then I think the second thing in sales is you're embedded with a customer and really starting everything about what's the customer want, what's their concerns, what are they trying to get accomplished. I think both of those were really good foundations for me. And then, so I did that for quite a bit of time and did a lot of different roles in the sales org, and then it ended up running it. But then I got to a point where I was going, I really was interested in not just top line, but I wanted to have P&L accountability. And so then an opportunity to go over and run our wealth management business for a while, which I found really exciting. And then I added on what we call our direct-to-consumer business, but it's kind of the life, auto and home, et cetera. And I did a variety of things like that, which eventually got me to where I am. So I think, the long story short is I've been exposed to a lot of different parts of the business. I've been exposed to, our customer in a very significant way. And I think all those have been helpful at preparing me for what I'm trying to do right now.
So Dave, when you think about 33-year tenure at TruStage, which is pretty incredible, what accomplishments are you most proud of in that time?
Yeah, I was trying to do the math. I assume 33 years is right. I started in 91, so I guess, that'd be 33 years. And it's crazy when you say that because, I remember starting here and going, I won't be here 10 years. It seemed like a great company, but there's no way I'm going to be here 10 years. And then to wake up and it's 20 and then 30 and whatever, it blows me away to even think about that. A lot of things have happened over that period of time. I guess, I think about, so we're a 90-year-old company. So I've been here like a third of that time frame, which also is kind of weird to think about. But, there's not a lot of companies that are around that were here 90 years ago. And I think, so whatever impact I had that, enabling us to continue to be around and continue to be relevant after 30 years and then 90 years as a company, I think is really significant and something, I'm really proud of. And obviously that's not me, but, I was a small piece of that. And I think being relevant and still around and being successful at that after that amount of time is something I'm really proud of.
And when you think about the biggest obstacles that you and the company have had to overcome in those 33 years, what comes to mind?
I wouldn't necessarily call this an obstacle, but, thinking through, we were started by credit unions back in 1935 and basically grew with the credit union movement. As credit unions grew, the number of credit unions grew up to like 20,000 of them. There's 130 million credit union members as part of that. It's interesting, and this happened during my career, there's a point where the number of credit unions started to reduce. As opposed to becoming more and more, less and less. And so now from 20,000, it's down to, I don't even know what the exact number is, 4,000. So responding to that, because, there's less credit unions, but there's larger credit unions with more, buying scale. At the same time, the number of credit union members has grown. So you had kind of this juxtaposition of the number of our B2B customers has shrink significantly. But the B2B2C aspect of that has grown significantly. So we just had to think about what does that mean to our business? How do we respond to that? What does that mean to the types of products and services we offer? I think that's kind of been the most transformative change that we've had to react to.
Interesting. So what does it take to deliver just amazing customer service and partner service at scale for credit unions like you guys do? 30 million lives is a very large number. 94% of the market, really being the insurance provider to 94% of credit unions is really, you guys are doing something incredible. You're one of the leaders in protecting the middle market and the mass market. What does it take to deliver that and those results?
Yeah, it's interesting when you kind of say it that way because, I don't know, we're 30 some million for relationships. And, you do the math, there's what, 330, 340 million Americans. And, you take away the kids because we're not selling anything to the kids right now. We're 12, 13, 14% of American consumers that we have a relationship with, which we're very proud of. And I think, it speaks to a couple of different things. One is growing with the credit union movement. We grew up just alongside credit unions, and I think we're 100% focused for most of that time on what are credit unions doing, how can we help them, what are the products and services that they need. And so we're very, very customer focused, and I think that's how one of the pieces to be successful. The other, and you mentioned it earlier, and this is because of, I think, who credit unions focus on. We've been obsessed about focus on middle market American consumers. You look at some aspects of our business, a lot of people want to focus on more high net worth and people with a lot of money. We've been really, really focused on that middle American, middle income. What do they need? What are they trying to accomplish? And I think those focuses have helped us, be successful and then respond because both, the credit union industry, like I said, has evolved. Today's consumer has evolved, but us focusing on those particular areas, I think, is one of the reasons that we've been pretty successful so far.
So TruStage was recently renamed from CUNA Mutual. TruStage is a mutual company, and mutual companies theoretically exist solely for the benefit of their current customer population. And it's interesting because, mutual life insurance companies are some of the largest in the States. I'm curious, how does that affect your guys's, operating memorandum? How does being a mutual company affect your decisions? Because you guys have grown really large. How do you think about balancing, prioritizing, improving your customer experience for existing customers versus growth for new customers, et cetera?
Yeah, that's interesting. And, we did have the name change, and I'm glad you say, because we were CUNA Mutual, and most people refer to us as CUNA or something like that. So it was kind of good to change our name so that hopefully people can pronounce it correctly. But we're not called TruStage Mutual, but we're still a mutual company. And, that's been conscious and I think important. I think, again, I'll briefly go back in history. We were first formed by credit unions. They consciously formed us as a mutual company because if you're familiar with credit unions, they're owned by their members. So it's a member-based cooperative. They're owned by their members. Same kind of concept with us. We're owned by our policy owners. And so that happened when we first started as it relates to that. On an ongoing basis, we think gives us an opportunity to have make some decisions with a longer term perspective. We don't have to be responding to what's going to happen at the end of this quarter. There's pros and cons to that, as you know, as well as I, but I think the pro in that is to potentially make some longer term decisions and longer term investments. And then, I always like to say that the money we make from our policy owners, doesn't go anyplace else. It goes, either back in to invest in the company or goes back into investing in our policy owners. And, we take that really, really seriously.
And so TruStage is one of the most technology-forward life insurance carriers, and you're obviously much more than a life insurance carrier, but you guys have invested a lot in technology. How have you thought about, the most impactful technological changes that you've seen, at this 90-year-old company that has probably had to redo its technology infrastructure multiple times and pick which business lines it really wants to double down and bet on by investing in technology?
It was nice of you to say that. I think, when you're inside the business, you're always, we're dealing with legacy systems and all that kind of stuff. So, some days I think that we're pretty progressive and some days I'm kind of frustrated by that. But, one thing that, we bet on, I think pretty early in this industry is, particularly from the life stages, trying to do automated underwriting, really thinking about simple products and services, instant decisioning, And so we invested in kind of the front end as it relates to that. And we continue to do that to try to make that process easier. And then now, like partnering with you, some of the things we were talking offline even before we came on today, we want to continue to invest in that. And I think, one thing that's really good about our partnership is you challenge us, and you were pushing on us to say, okay, you guys need to continue to invest. How do we make this experience easier? So that front end, I think, is really important. But the other area that we continue to invest on is, the claims and the servicing. We're very proud of how we treat, the beneficiaries or our policy owners, because we're selling a promise, and how we treat people is really important. So we continue to invest in the technology on the back end to make it simple and easy from a claims standpoint as well. Depending on which aspect of our business, we're paying claims same day, basically instantaneously, anywhere from 35-40% up to 50% of our claims that come through, because we want to make it easy. We want to deliver what we're trying to. Obviously, we're always balancing that with fraud, so we don't want to be, we want to make sure we have the right controls in place. But those are some of the things that we've tried to do over time. So I appreciate the compliment. Part of that is, I think, thoughtful planning. Part of that's being challenged by, our partners like you, and that's an area we continue to focus on.
Can you just give us a sense, like company-wide, all products-wide, how many claims does TruStage pay a year, roughly?
The number of claims. I know we pay $2 billion out in kind of what we call claims and reimbursements. How many actually claims come through? I should know that, but I don't know off the top of my head. Let's just say a lot. And
That's a big number.
Yeah, like just another number to kind of directional for you. So in COVID, so just from 20 to 22, we paid over 150 million of COVID-related claims. And everything I know about that is it's underreported, right? Because they have to tell us it was a death that was specifically related to COVID, and either people don't tell you or they don't know that. So a huge amount during that time frame, which we didn't look at as, we got to pay these. It's, that's what we were signed up to do. And, obviously, financially, it's just short-term hit, but long-term, we're well-positioned.
So TruStage has really been a leader in ensuring the middle market and the mass market. It's something that the life insurance industry has struggled to do successfully for a long time. Everyone talks about it. Few people attempt to do it, and when they attempt to do it, fewer people succeed at doing it. You guys have succeeded at doing it. We're succeeding at doing it together. I'm curious, when you guys think about your strategy in attacking that problem, what's really required to succeed, and how could the rest of the industry do better in expanding access to coverage rather than just becoming increasingly focused on high net worth for sources of premium growth?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure that out. So, I think part of it just starts that when we said, okay, that's our market segment that we want to focus on. Then one thing is just that's where, almost 100% of your attention goes. But then two is, and you guys do this really well, is just, so let's understand that consumer, when are they going to buy? Why are they going to buy? A lot of times people aren't looking for life insurance. It's like most people don't wake up in the morning going, that's what I'm going to do. But so we spent a lot of time in trying to do consumer research, understand the consumer, build that into our product development. Some of the things we talked about earlier is, and I think this is relevant for life insurance, I think it's relevant for middle market, is how do you make it easy? So when they do spend a little bit of effort and energy to explore that, how do you make that process easy so they don't get, there's too much friction here, screw it, I'm going to go do something else right now. I don't think there's no magic bullet on this one, except just kind of being obsessive about understanding that consumer, what they're about, how they want to buy, how do you make things easy for them. And then, choosing good partners like you to be able to give us access to that. That's one of the things that we found really powerful is it just gives us an opportunity to get access to more consumers through our partnership with you. And it's been very successful. And, thank you for that.
Likewise. So when you look to the future, what products and services are you most excited about? What do you think are going to be TruStage's, core growth engines going into the future?
One thing I would talk about is, So we have a big business in payment protection products. So products around the lending events, hence our connection with credit unions. That's a business that's grown and been really significant over time. What I think is really interesting about that is I think those products in the past have been sold, not bought. In other words, somebody's in for a car loan, they're talking to a loan officer. That loan officer needs to explain to them what these are about because they're relatively complex, et cetera. As the lending event has gone more and more digital, the opportunity to explain those, it's not as easy as taking your products and just building an API because they're complex. So we've really done two things. One is we have what we call kind of digitize our current products and services to how do we embed them in a digital lending event. But the other thing we've done is we started over and we said, how do we build digitally native payment protection products that are much more simple, that are built for a digital world? And we're out piloting those right now. So I think that's some of those things that, I think we were trying to do this in the life as well. It's just how do we kind of rethink the products and services we have, build them for a new age, which is digital. And then, that particular product, what we call Payment Guard, we're expecting significant growth on because that payment protection business that we have is $1 billion business. And over time, we got to make sure that's relevant in the digital world.
Fascinating. So let's talk about your leadership, overseeing 2,400 folks or so. That's a big team to manage, especially, I would say for the numbers of customers you guys touch, it's actually a pretty small HQ. It's a pretty small team compared to, look at an Allstate or something else that touches that many, in that scale of customers. When you think about your leadership role today, what parts of it do you most enjoy? Which parts of it do you least enjoy?
Yeah, I like the fact that, to what we talked about earlier, we're a pretty diverse company. We're not that big, mid-sized company, but we got our fingers in a variety of different businesses. I talked about wealth management, to the light business, to kind of wealth management, retirement, et cetera. So I love the fact that my day's involved in a lot of different stuff. So it's different thoughts, different products, different customers, that kind of stuff. That's the aspect of it that I like the most. And then the second piece is, I started in sales. So the more I get to interact with the customer and be part of that process is really, really powerful for me. Now, I just got to make sure I do that intentionally because I feel like the further I move in the organization, the danger is I get further away from the customer. And so I have to intentionally make sure I don't do that. So, I think the diversity of our business and also the fact that I still can stay really connected to the customers would really gives me a lot of juice.
Makes sense. Which aspects of it do you least enjoy?
As I've been around for a while, I'm willing to make tough decisions. We all have to about things like, saying no, stopping something that we don't think is relevant anymore. If there's a product or service that's, kind of seeing the end of its life cycle to, say, we got to stop that. We got to get out of that. Those are important decisions I need to make, but those aren't fun. Sometimes they impact people's lives, which, is necessary for the greater good so that we can have, employ more people and continue to grow. But, I don't always enjoy that stuff.
Makes sense. So, kind of agnostic to product or business line, what are the three most important things that you focus on in your days?
Yeah, I think culture is 1, 2, and maybe 3. Early in my career, I was involved in a situation in kind of in a group where I was newer in my career, so I didn't really understand what was normal and what was okay. And I got out of that situation. I look back on it and I go, the culture wasn't great. People were really supportive. There's a lot of blaming, all that kind of stuff. And I learned then early on, I said, one or two things. I'm either going to get out of that kind of a situation faster, or to the extent I can influence that from a leadership perspective, I'm going to do that. And so I've been really focused on what's the kind of culture that, people want to do. And I don't know how you feel about this. You probably agree with me, but I think there's a high correlation with culture and success. And I do realize there's organizations that maybe don't have the greatest culture that are achieving success. And I wonder over time, can that play out? But more importantly, I think about selfishly, what environment do I want to be in? If I'm going to be working a lot and working hard, I want to be in a situation where I feel supported, that the company treats me as more than just employing me, that they recognize that I got, a life outside of work as well as at work. I think outside of really trying to hire really, really good people, which I think is an important part of my role, I think it's setting the tone and being deliberate and thoughtful about what's the kind of culture that we want to continue to perpetuate. And I always feel that needs to be aspirational. How do we continue to make it better? Those are a couple of things I think talent and culture, I spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, all our employees have the option to work at Ethos. They have the options to work elsewhere, and I'm constantly aware of that. And life's too short to be part of a culture that you don't, believe in or appreciate, or you feel like, doesn't value you. So
I agree completely. I mean, I learned this early. It's like, the more, early in my career, I wanted to keep my work life and my personal life completely separate. And then I started to realize my work life impacts my personal life. My personal life impacts my work life. And so I can't think about them completely separate. And so how do I want to make sure I work and I live in a way that reinforces both? And I think that's been really important. So I agree with what you're saying.
So for the team that reports into you, how would they describe your leadership style?
Slacker. No, I don't know. I would hope they describe it as, values-based, somebody with integrity, somebody with ethics. Quick story, again, that I learned early. I had a relative that had a spouse that was a bodybuilder. And, bodybuilding is a sport that, I think some could say there's performance-enhancing drugs or steroids, but this individual took a lot of pride in competing cleanly. And he was one of the top 3 finishers in a bodybuilding contest. And not only do they drug test you, but, we learned from Lance Armstrong, you can get around drug testing. But before they awarded the top 3 finishers, they took them off and they had them go through a lie detector test. And I thought, wow, that's powerful. And he was so proud because he was like, not only did I win, but I won the right way. And I think about that in work. I want to win. I want to be successful. But I want to do it with ethics. I want to do it with integrity. I want to do it with values. So, I hope my team would say that. You don't get a chance to interview them, so they can't contradict me. But I would hope I was described that way.
Makes sense. And they will believe in you and follow you to a much greater extent and with more ease if you do operate with integrity and values. Otherwise, no one wants to follow a valueless leader. So.
I think so, and I think it's part of the reason this company's been around for a long time. I think one of the fastest ways to bring down organizations is a lack of ethics, a lack of integrity, and things like that. So I think we owe it to the people that are coming behind us to operate that way.
What advice would you offer to a young professional looking to make their mark in the insurance sector and, someone who's also staying attuned to how the industry is evolving?
I think particularly early, you want to be a sponge. You want to continue to learn, get exposed to different things, look for different projects to get on. Take your personal development as your accountability. Once in a while I see nowadays people are always like looking for the company for, what's my development? So I think the company can play a role and help, but I think it's incumbent upon, particularly when you're younger, is you own your own development. So look for those things, whether it's within the company, whether it's outside the company, be a sponge and learn. I mean, I look back in my career, I would never, I didn't know where I was going to be in 10 years or something. I didn't have a clear path on that stuff. And I think the more you learn, the more you're exposed to, the more opportunity you get, the more you're prepared for different things, no matter which direction your career goes. So, that's one thing that I think I did okay on that early in my career, but that's what I said, give my to yourself as well.
Amazing. All right. So flash round of questions just to get to know you. What's your favorite place to vacation?
Yeah, Door County, Wisconsin. So if people don't know Wisconsin, it's a little peninsula that sticks up into Lake Michigan. It's paradise on earth, and we go up there quite a bit, and I love it.
It's beautiful there. What's the last thing that you went really deep on learning about that didn't have anything to do with work?
Volleyball. So I have two sons. One plays in college. The other one is a senior in high school and aspires to play in college. And I didn't grow up playing volleyball, all the other sports, and my boys are really into it. So I've really kind of dug into it to try to learn, and it's really a complicated and fascinating sport. So I continue to read on it, watch on it, and things like that. So volleyball is probably the one thing I've really dug into.
What's the last book that you read?
I just finished a biography of Gerald Ford. Now, as that comes out of my mouth, that probably sounds like really boring, and I thought it might be as well. I like to read, history. I like to read biographies. But on the surface, he doesn't seem like that interesting of an individual. But it was a really, really good book about, how somebody that's such a decent human being can do what they did in life. So anyway, I don't even know what it's called, but I just finished. It was a biography of Gerald Ford.
He came into the presidency at a difficult time for the nation.
That's exactly right. There's so many interesting stories and kind of backstories you get through the biography. It's fascinating. It's exactly right.
And lastly, what's the best advice you've ever received or been given?
I remember this distinctly. It was my first boss at Neutral and TruStage. I learned so much from him. He had such incredible kind of street smarts and didn't have a lot of education, but all this kind of street smarts. And he always had this wisdom. And he'd always say, Dave, when you're meeting people and you're working with people, you got two strategies. Divide and conquer. So it's your idea is better, you're the one, and you're always competing with ideas, or absorb and corrupt. And he said, absorb and corrupt is always the best answer. What he meant by that is, collaborate, really try to understand what's motivating other people, what they're trying to accomplish. And that's the best way to interact with people. I'll never forget that. And I thought that was great advice.
Amazing. Well, Dave, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. It's been an absolute pleasure learning about you. I'm sure that our listeners have really enjoyed this. I think you're an incredible leader, and I think you help lead an incredible company. So I really appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Thanks a lot, Peter, and thanks for the partnership. We have a lot of respect for your organization, and I think the future is really bright. So appreciate spending the time with you.
Likewise. All right. Thank you, listeners. Appreciate it. Until next time. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of What's Your Ethos? If you're interested in helping to protect the next million families, come join us. You can learn more about Ethos at ethoslife.com. I'll see you next time.